Hello, I hope you can see me okay. Just gonna make sure my phone's up. Well, yeah, welcome to the Nottingham Buddhist Centre. So my name is Gareth. I think I'll go straight into it today as, yeah, if the sort of upcoming video has been around for a while, so if people are going to be watching, I think they would have joined us straight away. So yes, welcome to the drop-in meditation, Tuesday lunchtime session. So this week we are doing the Metta Bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness meditation. Next week we will go back to the mindfulness of breathing. I'm just going to check my audio is fine. Yes, it looks like it is. Yeah, so today's theme, I thought it would be nice to talk about the face, basically. I think the face for me is probably the most powerful way into a sense of metta for others. Yeah, there's something about it that is just it's very emotionally resonant. But there's also a sort of mysterious quality to faces and to that sense of really being close to another human being, which you sometimes get through a face, which we can contact even if we're doing that through our imaginations. So I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. So if you are brand new to the practice and you're not entirely sure what I'm talking about, there are links in the video description to our meditation toolkit, which is a sort of series of videos introducing meditation, the basic sort of stages, and what you need to do to sort of set your meditation space up. So if you're completely new and you want to learn the basics, then that's perhaps the best place to start. And then as sort of drop-in meditations, we're exploring different themes each time. So yes, so that's probably enough there. And then if you want to sort of make sure that you've got your what you need to be comfortable, but perhaps don't get into meditation posture just yet, sort of sit at ease while I say a little bit more about the face. So yeah, so there are so many ways to engage with the Metta Bhavana, with the loving kindness meditation, and yeah, basically all of them are valid in a way. All we're trying to do is to cultivate in whatever way we can a sense of compassion, of the desire for other beings to be well, and that can take many different forms. Sometimes we're emphasizing sort of the positive aspects of other people's experience and our own, sort of resonating with our capacity for joy. Sometimes it's more with other resonating with people's capacity for suffering, and we can engage with our imaginations in a very visual way. We might have more of a sense, as I've talked about in recent weeks, of being almost physically present with someone. Might be the sound of their voice. Perhaps we're thinking about what they're doing at the moment, the things we know have happened to them in the past. So many different ways to engage with it. But one way that I find very powerful, and sometimes seems to happen sort of spontaneously as well. It sort of seems like a good method, but also yeah, when I feel inspired by the practice, it often goes in this direction of its own accord, seemingly. Yeah, one of that approach is picturing people's faces. This may even be the way that most of us are doing it in general. There's so much bound up in the human face. It's the thing which communicates perhaps most directly and most subtly the different layers and complexities of human emotional experience, for most of us anyway. Yeah, so the difference between the way whether someone's smiling with their eyes or not sort of can communicate a whole a whole sort of story about what's going on with them, and that is yeah, such a small difference in the shape of someone's eyes that tells you whether happiness is sort of something that they're presenting or is actually really deeply rooted. I was watching something about visual effects recently, the sort of CGI, computer generated imagery. And one of the things that they find most difficult, even now with the sort of huge amount of computing power at their disposal, is really making convincing faces. And often they fall into this space which I think of as which is sometimes called the uncanny valley, where they're pretty close to a human face, but there's something not quite right, and it seems stranger than it would be if it was less accurate. So you know, in a Pixar film, they're not trying to be photorealistic, but you can still have a sense of the emotions being expressed and sort of invest in the characters on screen. But when you try and do a really realistic face, sometimes even very small differences in just the way the muscles move and things like that can just sort of throw things off and make them feel strange. I sort of bring that in just to show that that we're incredibly sensitive to people's faces, and they're profoundly invested with meaning for us as human beings. And so it's sort of natural and for that to become a way into to connecting with other people. And sometimes when I try to do this, when I sit down and I come to maybe the second stage, or even in the first, I'm thinking about myself, I sometimes can't really see the face very clearly, which is strange because maybe I know the person very well. But actually, that's usually fine if I just sort of relax and have the sense of being face to face with someone, and even not just holding them up as a sort of a picture, where I'm sort of invisible to them, but have that sense where this face is not just an object to me, but is invested with some sense of being alive. Sangharakshita, the sort of founder of the Triratna Buddhist movement, of which our centre is a part, used to talk about, I think this was in connection with the Metta, with the loving kindness meditation particularly, of having the sense that when you're calling people to mind, it's as if there's this living gallery that you're a part of. Not only are these images of people, but they are in some sense alive and responsive to you. And perhaps that sounds rather fanciful, but I think allowing that to happen can suddenly seem very real, actually. That we can have a lived sense of another person being a real human being somewhere out there in the world, if we allow the images that come to our minds, particularly of their face in this instance, to respond to us. Perhaps that's what's most mysterious about the human face. Not just that it's tremendously expressive as an object, but that it can also sort of miraculously, really, communicate a sense of another mind being in our presence, being near to us, in a way that very few other things really can. It's not just that we can look at the faces, but the faces can look back. That's I think what's really profound and mysterious about them, and especially mysterious when it comes to practice like this, and you allow you call them to mind in whatever way you can, perhaps even just sort of allow them in, not trying to force it. And that sense of being seen, of the face looking back, can happen even there where there's seemingly no person in front of you. So I'd really invite you this time, as we go through the usual 5 stages of the loving kindness meditation to dwell on the face, allow the faces in, walk through these stages as you would walk through a gallery, beginning with your own face as a sort of self-portrait and then coming to the others. But this isn't a usual gallery where we can be safely invisible to the faces that we gaze upon. This is a living gallery where they are looking back at us. And yeah, in the sort of mysterious space of meditation that we're creating, whatever our usual experience of interacting with these people, this time they are open, receptive to us. Perhaps that's difficult to imagine, particularly in the difficult person stage, if usually there's a sort of suspicion in both of our eyes. But this time, can we imagine just meeting them, just being seen, seeing them, that meeting of minds, which happens through the sort of magical portal of the face. So let's give that a go. If it's completely not working for you, and there is some other way of working with the Metabhavana that's been effective for you recently, then don't feel you have to force it. But that's what we'll be exploring this time. If you want to follow my sort of directions. So that's enough from me. So if you want to settle into your meditation, your meditation posture rather, if you're not already in it, and we'll just get ready to go. So just closing your eyes, resting them in an empty space in front of you. And calling to mind our reason for practicing, even if it's just a general sense of why it's important to us, a feeling as much as an idea maybe. Using that to reinforce the intention to stay with the practice, returning each time we wander off. Moving through a very brief body scan. Noticing sensations in our head, our face, softening on the out-breath wherever we find tension. Taking in the neck and shoulders. Seeing if we can drop any tension we've built up. As if we've picked things up along the way and we no longer need to hold. Just setting them down. Taking in the arms, coming down from the shoulders, the upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists and hands. Taking in the chest, the belly, the lower back, really letting the breath into the belly, to that space below the belly button. the groin and the pelvis, down into the legs, the thighs, the knees, calves and shins, ankles and feet. See if we can soften the soles of the feet. Before returning to a broad sense of the whole body. And really taking note of the emotional tone of our physical experience. The patterns of tension and energy that express and manifest our emotions. And bringing that sensitivity to the emotional body with us into the loving kindness meditation. In the first stage, calling ourselves to mind. Wishing ourselves well. As we're entering this mental gallery, just to follow that image. Just having a sense of the space. Before we come to the first picture, which is ourselves. Our own face, picturing it as if the artist had viewed us kindly, sympathetically. Seeing ourselves clearly, not flattering, but also without any negative judgment either. Our own living face, which is the outward sign to everyone we meet, all the restlessness in our minds. May we be happy, may we be well, may we be free from suffering. And the second stage, calling to mind a good friend, leaving behind the picture of ourselves, moving on to this next portrait. And again, can we allow their face into our minds? And can we allow them to look back? We can just stay quietly in that encounter. Maybe happy, maybe well, maybe free from suffering. As our mind drifts away, thoughts come between us, letting them go and coming back, meeting the eyes of our friend again. Keeping a sense of being in our bodies, noticing any physical changes that come in response to calling our friend to mind. Moving on again into the third stage, leaving a friend behind, calling to mind a neutral person. This portrait of a stranger, almost. Someone we don't feel strongly about. Someone whose image is normally hanging in the background of our lives. But today we're choosing to stop and look deeply. And the image itself in our mind's eye might not be that detailed. We don't have to force it. It's as much this sense of being face to face, the feeling of meeting someone's gaze, seeing and being seen, allowing ourselves to connect imaginatively with this neutral person in this way. It's very likely we've never really looked at this person in this way, but in the space of the magic gallery that we're walking through, that becomes possible. Possible to connect with the lively enigma of their consciousness behind their eyes. Moving into the fourth stage, calling to mind someone we find more difficult. As we move before this portrait, Really noticing the physical response, even if it's only subtle. Tensing up, closing down. Again, we are in the magic gallery of the loving kindness meditation, so we don't need to defend ourselves. Perfectly safe. All our usual responses are suspended and other things become possible. It's possible to meet this person's gaze. And connecting with this person just as one human being meeting another. And just as we are driven by the need to be safe, the attempt to be happy, the desire not to suffer, so are they too, even if it's expressed in ways that we disagree with. Moving into the fifth and final stage, leaving behind the portrait of the difficult person, coming to something slightly different. So as we call to mind each of the people in the previous stages, it's as if we come to something more like a group portrait. Ourselves, the good friend, the neutral person and the difficult person all appear. We see them, they see us. Perhaps they even see each other. Having some sense of that collective life. What's shared behind all of the faces that we've encountered so far. May we all be well. May we all be happy. May we all be free from suffering. And from there we can open things out even further in whatever way you wish. As if the frame of the painting begins to expand, bringing in more and more of the world, more and more people. So many living human faces. And for once they are not busy, mere background dressing to our lives. Their eyes intent on other things. They're just present, open to connect with us. And we're free to respond to them. As more and more people join, perhaps we lose the sense of individual faces that we had before. Still there's some feeling of responding collectively to this lively host of human beings. But it doesn't need to end there either. We can allow in non-human beings. Animals. All living sentient things. Come together for one imaginative image. We're looking out at them and they are looking back. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. And letting go of that now. Just sitting for a few more moments, not trying to do anything. Just resting in our own presence. I'm starting to get a sense of the room around us again. Sounds, smells, light through our eyelids. And then gradually, in your own time, after I ring the bell, you can open your eyes and come fully back into the room. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me. It feels strange the moment after meditating. So want to ease yourself back into the rest of the day. So yeah, if you do have the space, sort of return gently back into whatever you're doing. Yeah, so I hope that was helpful, the sort of different way of approaching maybe, or just bringing into focus something that maybe was already quite a prominent part of your meditation, and this particular meditation anyway, the loving kindness practice. If you do have any comments or questions, whether in relation to what we've just done or anything else, then you can always leave them in the comments or reply to or leave us a message on our email or social media. We will be back at 7:30 tonight. I believe it's Richard doing the session tonight, and then Rachel is back on Friday at 1 o'clock. Yes, I'll be away next week, but I will be back the week after. I'm on retreat myself. I'm doing a sort of online retreat. Yeah, I'd hope to be away, but obviously the new restrictions in Nottingham have stopped that, which is. Yeah, the online retreats are still very enjoyable. Surprising how much of an atmosphere you can create just with yeah, knowing that there are other people in that retreat space with you. Something that I hope we can have some sense of when we're doing this sort of drop-in experience, meditating with other people, even though they're not necessarily in the room. So yes, yeah. So just a couple of final things to mention. If you can support us financially, that would be wonderful. We obviously have had to push back what plans we were developing to open the centre again. Yeah, so we are still completely dependent on the generosity of people like yourself engaging with us online. Yeah, connecting with what we do. So if you are appreciating this and you want to help us continue, then please contribute in whatever way you can. You can find the link for that below. Also, we have an introductory course coming up. That's coming up on starting on I want to say the 10th of November. I'm certainly doubting that time. But anyway, I believe it's the 10th of November. You can find the details for that on our website. nottinghambuddhistcentre.org, and there's also an invitation elsewhere on YouTube if you'd like to get a sense of what we're doing. That should be live now, I believe. Anyway, you'd certainly find it on the website. Yeah, so if you are wanting to do an introductory course, or even if you just know someone else who'd be interested in coming along, we're going to be doing them on Zoom. Yeah, it's shaping up to be really exciting, actually. This is our first full introductory course since the lockdown began. We've had some follow-on ones for people who've done introductory courses before, but yeah, it should be quite big, big team. So yeah, so that's exciting, and that's coming up next month. Yeah, otherwise, yeah, thank you very much for sitting with me and meditating. I hope that sort of slightly different way of approaching the mindfulness of the metta bhavana was helpful. Yeah, I do find it very powerful for some reason. That particular sort of image of the gallery, which again sort of borrowed from Sangharakshita. I kept thinking about the pictures in Harry Potter for some reason. I don't think I've made that connection before. I wonder if that's partly what planted the seed in my mind, the sense of there being living pictures. I suppose it's a bit of a sort of thing that crops up in lots of fantasy stories. Yeah, something really compelling to my mind about it. Anyway, yeah, always interested to hear what your thoughts were. Yeah, so thank you very much, and I will see you again soon. Take care.